And what we'll do now is create the flashcards and have them animate with a slide animation. So when the session first starts, we'll have a flashcard automatically animate from the bottom of the screen to the center of the screen. So to do that, we're going to create the slide animation in its own stateful widget, and therefore we can just wrap around the flashcard and animate that, and we can furthermore use that slide animation with other widgets in the app and also have different types of slide animation, so to animate from different directions and also in and out. So let's get started. First of all, in animations, we'll create a new Dart file. I'll name the slide animation. We'll create a new stateful widget of the same name. Import material. First of all, we want to pass in the actual widget that will wrap around and animate. So this will be of type widget, so any widget we want basically. Then use the required keyword. This argument must be passed in. Now down here in the state class, let's create our animation controller. I'll use the late keyword because we'll initialize this in the init state. And then we must have this synced up with a ticker. So in the state class, we'll mix in with the with keyword a single ticker, provide a state mixin. Then in the init state, let's initialize our controller. To sync this up with the ticker, we'll just use the this keyword, and let's set the duration. Let's say 400 milliseconds, and we can adjust that as we need to. Secondly, we'll set up another animation object, and this will be of type offset. So this will offset the widget based on its original position on either the X or Y axes, or both at the same time, and this will offset it based on its current size. So let's get that working. We're going to set a tween to that so we can have the begin and end position. So our animation will be set to a tween of type offset. Here we have a begin and also an end position. So let's set the begin. So our begin offset, we want this to be 0 on the X, so the X will be unchanged. It's the Y, the vertical axis we care about, and we'll make that 1. So that'll be offset by a factor of its own size, which will push it off the screen. Then our end position will be its original normal position, which will be in the center of the screen. So we'll set that at 0, 0. And now we need to chain .animate to this tween to set this up. And in here we pass our controller. But firstly, let's pass in a curved animation. Here we can pass in our controller, and this will just allow us to apply a curve instead of this being linear. And let's choose ease and out. Alright, so we have our animation object set up. So here, replace the container with a slide transition. So this is an animation widget which will do the animating for us. And here we just need to pass in an animation of type offset. So we already have that object ready. We'll just pass in animation there. And secondly, we'll pass in the child, so the actual widget that will be animated. So here we'll write widget dot child. That will be the child we passed into the stateful widget, so the widget we want to animate. Okay, so we have this set up. We need to kickstart the animation. To do that, we'll call forward on our animation controller, and we'll do this in the init state, so this will run when this first runs. So back in our flashcards page, we need to actually create the flashcard that will animate. So let's create a really simple outline of the card first. So using the body property in our scaffold, we'll use the container. Here I want to set the color. I'll use this using box decoration. So therefore, we can update the border of the card also later on. But firstly, let's set the color, and we'll set that to the theme that we defined earlier, our primary color, which will be a color of red. Hot reload. Alright, cool. So we have the card filling up the whole body. So let's put some margin around the edges. Let's do this proportionally. So firstly, we'll grab the dimensions of the device using media query .of size, store this in a variable named size. Then here in our container, we can put the width. So size dot width, and we'll say this is 0.9. And then here we'll put the height, size dot height, and we'll say 0.7, just taking into account the fact that we'll have an app bar taking up some of the screen's height. Okay, hot reload, and we have some margin around the edges. Let's also center the container, wrap in a center. Okay, so now we're ready to apply our animation. Okay, so nice and easy to apply. Wrap the flashcard with slide animation. Import the library, and now we can test this. Alright, nice. So we saw the card automatically slide into the center from the bottom. Let's slow that down just so it's a bit clearer for example purposes. We'll set that at, say, 4 seconds. Okay, perfect. So that's exactly what we want. Now let's build on this slide animation widget. So instead of just sliding in one direction, it can slide in a variety of directions based on what we pass into it. So firstly, to do that, we'll set up an enum in a new directory. I'll create named enums. So let's create a Dart file, and this enum will be named slide direction. And here we'll create an enum slide direction. So this will represent all the different directions the slide animation can run in. So the first one is no direction. The next one we'll put left away. So left away will be from the center of the screen, and it will animate to the left hand side of the screen. We'll do right away. We'll do up in, so that animates up to the center of the screen. We'll also do left in, from the left into the center, and also right in. Control Alt L. Okay, so we have this enum set up to clearly define the different possible slide animations. So let's go back to our slide animation, and here we also want to pass in the direction, so final, and our type is that enum slide direction, or right direction is the variable name, and this must be passed in. Okay, so we now will pass in this direction. So down here we have this animation object set to this tween in the init state. So what we need to do instead is we'll remove this. I'll cut this animation, I'll cut this variable up here, and instead paste it here in our build method. And therefore, to effectively reassign the animation object, we're going to just create a new animation object and set that to a new tween, and then we can run in a different direction. So we'll also create a tween of type offset, and I'll name this tween. So here we have a tween variable. So now we need to set what the tween should be. So we could have a series of different options based on what's passed in, what direction is passed in. So to do that, I'm going to use a switch statement, which is basically like a series of if-else statements. So here we'll write switch, and then we want to switch this against widget.direction. So we can switch that against that enum value, and then we'll put in the different scenarios. So the first scenario, which will indicate with the keyword case, is slide direction dot left away. So in that case, our tween, so on the second line, or assign what our tween will be in this scenario, will be equal to tween of type offset, our begin, so it'll start in the center, and then the end value will be -1, so that'll push it to the left, and then 0. Okay, so that's our first scenario indicated here. So if this direction is left away, then this tween variable will be set to this tween. We'll use the break keyword to jump out of the switch statement, and then we can just copy this and paste this here. So the next logical possibility is right away, and here we can just remove the minus sign. This will push it to the right. The other option is, let's put left in. So here this will come from the left, and our end value will be 0 because this is coming into the center, and this will be coming from the left hand side. So therefore this should be -1, and then we'll do right in, and then we'll just remove that minus. So this is coming from the right. Then we'll do up in, which is the one we had before. So the begin value will be on the y-axis, so that'll be 1 here, and then this will go to the center of the screen. And then we have one final scenario, which is nothing. So the switch statement here is going to determine what our tween is set to. Now we need to set our animation variable to that tween and call .animate on this again like before. So we'll just pass in curved animation, the controller, and curves.ease in out. So let's go to our flashcards page, and here we now need to pass in the direction, and here we can just write slide direction, import the library first, and here we can select the direction. So let's do left in, and the cool thing about using an enum here is it's so easy to use. We can just select the value that we want. We could have used a string, but that would be prone to error, and also we wouldn't be able to easily select these different options. So an enum, really cool in this sort of scenario. So let's do a hot restart, choose a topic, and nice, we have that nice slide animation coming in from the left. So we can now easily update our slide animation. So this is going to become really handy as we use it throughout the app. Let's just test up in again. So hot restart. Okay, cool. So that'll be the first animation. It'll run from the bottom into the screen. And then what will happen is we'll flip over the card, and then we can swipe it left or right. One other feature I want to create to the slide animation is I'll create a bool, animate, and then set this to true here. So the purpose of this bool is this can trigger the animation when we want, not only when it runs in the init state. And by default, I'll set this as true. So if we don't pass this in, this will run. So here, I'll write if widget.animate is true, then we run forward. Otherwise, obviously, we won't. And then also, if we pass in true later on, we can trigger the animation. So we can do that by using did update widget. So here we can write if widget.animate controller will run forward. So the did update widget will run when we pass in a new value to our stateful widget and trigger this animation to run if that value is true. And for good housekeeping, we'll call dispose on the controller here. Okay, so we have this slide animation set up. We'll be able to use that to animate our flashcards.